All right, well, officially, welcome everyone to tonight's ICTM webinar called High School Math Pathways Reimagined, being presented by the Evanston Township High School Math Department. This is being hosted by ICTM. I'm Adam Petzel, past president of ICTM. And if you are an ICTM member, you are eligible to earn 1 hour of ILPD credit for attending this webinar. So in the chat, I went ahead and put a link where if you can check in and check out, that would be great. If you'd like to earn that credit, just make sure you check in and check out. This event is open to everyone. You don't have to be a member, but ILPD credit is a member benefit if you're part of our organization. For tonight with this webinar, I just want to let you know that we are in Zoom mode, so it's okay to have your camera on, but please keep your microphone off. If you have questions during the webinar, go ahead and hold them until the end. We are planning a Q&A session at the end of the webinar, and we'll allow you to unmute then, and I will help facilitate that. But during the presentation, if you would like to share some things in the chat or give some comments, you're welcome to. But the presenters won't be monitoring the chat and interacting with your chat. But at the end, we'll have time for that at the end. So tonight is a little transition to our presenters. If you are a high school teacher or worked around a high school recently or in the past many decades, you probably are familiar with the typical Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, pre-calculus pathway with different tracks for kids based on their potential academic success. And in the past 10 years, you probably also wondered, is this really the best way to serve our students? Is it time to rethink this math pathway and who is it serving and who is it leaving behind? And there's been many good conversations happening to rethink this. And Evanston Township High School has been really kind of on a forefront over the past almost 10 years, rethinking this, just wrestling with this, trying to think about other ways to help serve their specific students up in Evanston. And so tonight, I'm going to turn over to Jake Mills, the department chair, and Dale Leibforth, another school leader, and their department to kind of share their story with us about what they've been doing and where they're currently at and where they're hoping to go. So without further ado, Jake, I'm going to turn it over to you and allow you to start telling us your story.
Thank you so much. So yeah, I'm Jake Mills, the new math department chair here at ETHS. Dale Leibforth was the former math department chair. So we'll be kind of bouncing back and forth between the two of us. And we'll also have Matt Kaiser, another one of our teachers here at ETHS, joining us in a little bit. Aaron Slade will also be joining in a little bit, and I'll let the other three teachers that are on the call introduce themselves and tell you what math classes they teach at ETHS.
Hi, I'm Sarah Applebaum. I've been teaching, I'm starting my 7th year at ETHS this upcoming school year, I guess on Thursday now. And I currently teach geometry, geometry support, data science, and BC calculus.
Jose might be frozen.
Might be frozen.
Neva.
I'm Neva Curry. I've been teaching at Evanston Township High School for going on, I guess now starting on Thursday, the 24th year. And I currently teach 2 algebra pathway to honors, data science pathway to honors, and AP statistics.
And Dale, I didn't let you formally introduce yourself. Go ahead.
Thanks. And yeah, I was just going to give a little shout out. I mean, we're in August, right? So I'm thankful for the team for being here. I know Jake's just getting his feet on the ground as our new math department chair. We have institute days Thursday, Friday. So everybody's scrambling. We're going to have a few of our teachers jumping in after they put their kids to sleep. Someone's landing a plane and jumping on. And it looks like Matt just came on from coaching baseball, I think, with his son. So we understand how it is. So we appreciate you all being here tonight. I'm Dale Leibforth. I've been at Evanston Township High School, I feel like my whole life. I went to school there. I was even a little kid there when I was 2. And I was math department chair for the last 10 years, leading one of the top math departments, in the state. A really great team. A few of them are here with us tonight. Jake Mills took over as math department chair, and I am now the director of early college and career experiences. And I will turn it over to Jose, and then it looks like Matt is here as well.
Jose, if you just want to introduce yourself.
Perfect. Sorry, my computer crashed at that exact moment. So again, Jose Manuel Arias. I teach pre-algebra. It's one of the classes for our emerging multi-language students. I also teach AP pre-calculus this year, and also STEAM DTI for seniors only.
And we'll let Matt introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Matt Kaiser. I'm one of the two teachers that teaches our geometry and construction program. One of the different courseworks where students can earn their geometry credit along with a career and tech ed credit.
Thank you, Matt. And Dale, you can go ahead and go to the next slide. And so just give you a brief overview of ETHS. We have about 3,600 students in Evanston, Illinois. The majority of our students are the minority. We have a large Black and Latinx population, and you'll hear us talking about how we serve that population at our school. So we're economically, racially, and ethnically diverse at ETHS. And so over the last 10 years, 20 years, we've really made a dedicated effort to address those student populations. And you're going to hear more about that tonight. I'll give a quick introduction to this, and I'll turn it back over to Dale. So the race and equity work that we do at ETHS is the foundation of all of our work. So all of our teachers, when they come in as new teachers at ETHS, they're enrolled in the Evanston Educators Academy. And part of that is a training called Beyond Diversity. It's a 2-day intensive training where they learn about courageous conversations, and they examine their role as a teacher in the classroom and what they bring in terms of their identity. And that's the foundation of everything that we do here at ETHS. And I'm going to turn over to Dale for our other two main things here.
Thanks. And I think without that base layer set up by our superintendent, Dr. Campbell, and our principal, Dr. Kinsey, assistant superintendent principal, without that kind of groundwork, we wouldn't be able to do a lot of the things or have the conversations that, we're having tonight. A lot of my early work, as I got into more leadership areas was in the area of advanced placement. Math was one of the cutting edge areas in terms of making sure that we're detracking, if you will, or including all of our students, giving them awareness, access, readiness, and success towards our advanced placement classes. So I'd like to give a shout out to my buddy, Rich Kaplan. He taught right next to me. He had done it at a previous school and came to our school, and he figured out a way to have students go through the pathway Adam explained earlier of, algebra, geometry, to algebra, pre-calc, calculus. I don't have a calculator, but that sounded like 5 classes. You need to do that in 4 years. So Rich Kaplan designed a summer geometry program and a bridge to calculus program that helped our students, particularly our students of color, get into our advanced placement classes. And then because of the work and success in the math department, we did broaden that out to the whole school. So one of the areas that we did in our early work was advanced placement detracking, if you will, across the school. So if you can do it there, you should be able to do it at the other levels. And we'll talk a little bit about that tonight. Evanston was one of the beta test sites for the College Board. There were 7 schools in the 1950s who were chosen to find the elite students, the college-ready students, the best students, and to give them. We were right next to Northwestern, right? So we were supposed to find the best of the best and have like this nice advanced placement class that was for students who were in a very specialized category. Well, most of those students were white, and we had a very successful advanced placement program for a really long time. But in around 2011, we started to see many students of color gain access to the classes and had record-breaking success in that. And so that kind of set up the pathway for some of our detracking work at the earlier levels. And basically in the advanced placement classroom, I was teaching AB Calc. Oftentimes we would say, not all students are prepared. Some students come through an honors track and they're pretty prepared, and some students come through a regular track and they're not always as prepared. So what can we do? So our school started to look at, through the work of Dr. Pete Davis, what we used to call earned honors, now we call it pathway to honors, and that's our version of detracking, and we'll talk a lot about that tonight. And we did that through the pathway, and Jake's going to lay out a little bit of a timeline for us.
Thanks, Dale. So here's a rough timeline. I just wanted to highlight a couple dates. There's a lot of information on this slide. So back in 2007 and 2008, our superintendent launched a committee to select a provider for our equity work. And this is when we began our courageous conversations. In 2010, 2011, this is when the team ASAP, this is Dale's work with advanced placement began. And then you fast forward all the way until 2018. And I was a part of this team in 2018 where we eliminated tracking in geometry. So this is our first pathway to honors math course that was offered here at ETHS. And so we had multiple levels of geometry. And then we took all of those tracks and put them into one. And so now we have a geometry pathway to honors class that started in 2018. Fast forward to 22-23, our Algebra 2 and pre-calculus classes were detracked to pathway to honors. And then in 2023 and 2024, this past year, we have all of our students taking AP pre-calculus. So we have the largest AP pre-calculus enrollment in the world. all of our students take AP Pre-Calculus, and we saw some outstanding results this past year in that course. And then the other stat that I wanted to highlight here at the bottom, a few statistics. We have 1,400 students that are taking AP exams at ETHS. This past year. 3 out of our 4 graduates from ETHS take an AP exam. And every year we have about 3,500 exams that are taken here at ETHS. Dale, was there anything else that you wanted me to highlight from that slide?
You got me a little bit when you said we were the largest AP Pre-Calculus program in the world. I remember getting that email from the College Board and they said, yep, in the world. So, I mean, it's a big deal to have everyone in the school who takes Pre-Calculus takes AP Pre-Calc. And we had over 500 students do that. So, and that's really a challenge for our teachers. And they'll talk a little bit about what the classroom looks like in a minute.
Yep. So here's a really complicated diagram, and just a quick side. I remember asking Dale about this in one of my interviews when I first was hired at ETHS. What is going on with this diagram? Because I came from a high school that was very traditional: pre-algebra, algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2, and pre-calculus and calculus. So I think it's incredible of all the classes and the specialized courses that ETHS is able to offer. And you're going to hear from some instructors of our specialized courses here at ETHS, such as data science, STEAM, Algebra and Entrepreneurship, Geometry and Construction. We'll get into those later. So we have a wide variety of math courses that we offer, in addition to all of these Pathway to Honors classes that we've detracked.
And Jake, I started about 10 years ago. I had 31 teachers. How many teachers are in the department now?
We have 40 math teachers, 40 math teachers this year at ETHS.
So big school, a lot of resources. Hopefully we'll talk tonight about what we do, but also what everyone can do if they don't have the large course teams of 15 teachers, right? So we hope to highlight some of that tonight.
So here's our goals with the Pathway to Honors classes. And so when we detracked our geometry class starting in 2018, we talked about what were the goals of this detracking. And the most important thing was, if we had a best curriculum, we wanted all students to have access to it. And so we started with the assumption that all students are capable of success. That's the most important thing. And that's what all of our teachers go into the classroom, assuming all students are capable of success. All students are exposed to challenging problems while being accountable to the standards. And everyone has a pathway to honors credit. And so we'll get into a few details of what that looks like in the classroom, and our teachers will talk about that. But these are some of our goals for our Pathway to Honors courses. The biggest key, and this is what we're going to focus on next week when school begins on August 12th, are our relationships with students. That's the foundation in our classroom, getting to know them. And that goes back to our courageous conversations and our equity work that we talk about with our first-year teachers, building those relationships with our students so that they trust us and that we can get them to do hard problems in class every single day. That's the foundation of our success. The key is high expectations for all students. Like I mentioned, if there is a best curriculum in our math department, we want all students to have access to it. And so we're giving, we have low floor, high ceiling problems. We have complex open-ended tasks. And so we have high expectations for all of our students, and they're exposed to honors problems on a daily basis. There's a lot of bullet points here. I wanted to highlight a couple of them, but I'm going to turn it over to our teachers to talk about some specifics that they focus on in the classroom. But I remember when this was first rolled out when I was a teacher, this was a daunting task as a teacher, right? So we're taking multiple tracks and putting them all into one classroom. So we have a wide range of learners in the classroom. And so we wanted to think about, how could we expose all students to honors level problems on a daily basis? This seemed like an impossible task at the time. But I think through multiple professional development opportunities and conversations at the lunch table and the math office, things like that, we've come up with many ways to attack this endeavor. So I'm going to turn it over to a few of our teachers who are going to highlight some things that they do in the classroom.
Okay, so I think I'm up first. So when I was part of the 2 algebra, getting the Pathway to Honors going, and we definitely took, I guess we should have had geometry go first because they definitely were the leaders of this. But with the 2 algebra curriculum, we tried to learn from like what had worked when they did it with geometry, what were things that they would have changed. And so using their guidance, we did want to really make sure like every day, 20% of the material was covering we call them stretch problems sometimes. But the students don't really know it. We just continue to do math. What was interesting is when we were trying to kind of see what we needed to like put into our curriculum to beef it up. We had a 2 Algebra Advanced teacher look at the problems we were using, and he actually said, oh, well, it doesn't look any different than what I'm doing in my advanced class. And so I think that's really kind of good to hear, is that the math we do is kind of available for everyone. And so we were able to just kind of keep doing what we were doing. In some cases, we eliminated some of like the scaffolding that I think for a lot of the stretch problems, we used to scaffold maybe a little too much, and we sort of would take that out. The relationships is definitely the big thing. Every day we encourage students to work together in groups. We do a lot of like notice wonder when we're introducing a new function, that like having them kind of create their own vocabulary behind it. And so that's kind of what 2 Algebra has done, and I'll let somebody else take over.
Yeah, and my geometry classes, I think a big thing that helps my students like really be successful in that headspace or in that physical space is by having them work in what I call math families, which are basically just small groups of students with varying abilities. And when they're given questions that are more high ceiling, I don't see kids, I don't see them just trail off. I do see them working together and really tackling challenges because they're inspired from their peers who might be giving things, giving things their all. So I do see that group work is really, really something that helps all of our students have success in geometry classes.
Something I wanted to highlight coming from an AP pre-calculus class is just the fact that a year ago, I was teaching a regular, if you want to call it whatever, regular pre-calc class to students. And then we decided, as a school, we decided to go all AP for everyone. And to be honest, I am happy with the change. I'm happy with the fact that we provided opportunities for everyone in the school to take a rigorous AP class that I was honest with them. It was going to be a challenge for all of us. And seeing students stepping up, putting in the work and really being proud of being in an AP class was something that was very rewarding for me. Specifically, a lot of students of color taking that pride as well, and being able to participate and did well in the class. We use different sources like Calcmatic for pre-calculus, where they let you experience the math first, and then we talk about the math behind it. But I honestly want to highlight the fact that we were able to say, hey, as a school, we're all going to take this AP curriculum and really push our students, and I think they really stepped it up.
Thanks. And one thing I wanted to highlight as well is this was not easy work. There was days where this is really difficult, and I was an instructional coach before I was the math department chair. And so I had several conversations with our teachers, like, how am I going to do this? This is really difficult. All of our students are taking an AP pre-calculus class. So we set the bar extremely high for all of our students. And I think when the students knew that the bar was that high, they rose to that level as well. And so we saw a lot of success with our new AP pre-calculus for all class.
And I think we called it Math Pathways Redefined, right? It's pathways in most schools. As you look at their websites, there's different levels, sometimes 5 or 6 levels in a class. And so one way we're talking about disrupting it is, how can you have there be one pathway for students? Most of our students come in geometry. They take geometry, Algebra 2, AP Pre-Calc, and either calculus or statistics AP senior year. And so that's really our pathway for everyone. So how do you do that well? And I think a few other teachers will jump in later on, but we wanted to kind of move to the transdisciplinary courses. The other way to disrupt the pathway is to do things totally differently than that traditional path we're talking about. So we began by talking about disrupting the kind of tracking or structure of the pathway as it exists in many schools. But as we look at our transdisciplinary, we like to call them, math courses, we'd like to highlight a few of those now.
Yeah, and I just want to add on to this, Dale. I think in addition to our detracking and our pathway and honors classes, I think these are the classes that really set ETHS apart, that we're able to offer all of these classes, and our students have all these multiple opportunities for a non-traditional math curriculum. So I'm really excited for our teachers to share their experiences in these courses. We'll go in this order. So I know Erin just joined the call. We'll let Erin introduce herself and talk about her 2 specialized courses.
Hi, my name is Erin Slade. I teach algebra and entrepreneurship, algebra and coding, and also data science, but I'll talk about the first 2. So algebra and entrepreneurship is Algebra 1 mixed with entrepreneurship for our freshman, sophomore students. And in algebra and entrepreneurship, it's pretty much Algebra 1, except instead of, say, like graphing a line out of context, students would graph a line for their own individual businesses and their profits. There's a lot of ways to blend in business, whether or not you have a whole course for it. We've even called like our local movie theater and gotten some of their numbers and been able to work with linear relationships and other topics with those numbers. But it's just in our school an opportunity for students to be in a position where they're able to build confidence and feel proud of something that they're doing while they start their own individualized businesses. And they do work with real money in our class. All of our businesses, whether it's our school store or their own businesses, they're able to kind of get that real experience, like as if they were doing a business outside of ETHS. And then I also teach algebra and coding, very similar to algebra and entrepreneurship, but instead of blending in entrepreneurship, we blend in coding. It's actually run through a program called Bootstrap Algebra. So you can go and get trained from Bootstrap Algebra. You can buy their curriculum, which some of our teachers who are not here did. Similarly, so we blend in coding topics to all of the regular Algebra 1 standards. So we do piecewise functions to talk about conditional coding, inequalities you can use to keep players on a screen because they're coding a game. So in that sense, there's a lot of things you can do in your regular classroom as well. We use spreadsheets a little bit to talk about functions, and when you write a spreadsheet, you're talking about coding. So those are little things you can do to weave it in, whether you do a whole class on algebra and coding or not. But just finding opportunities for students to do real things that aren't just math, that they can do in other content areas.
Thanks, Erin. We'll turn it over to Matt Kaiser, one of our geometry and construction teachers.
Thanks. So I myself and Mary Jo Hammond are the 2 teachers that teach our geometry and construction program, where we take all the geometry that students learn in a typical classroom, but contextualize it and look at it through the lens of construction. So that age-old question of when are we going to use this in real life is answered in that contextualized and textile part of building. So we take all the construction concepts, break them down into smaller units, and have aligned that to the standard geometry curriculum to show the students how they can actually utilize all of their mathematical skills on a build site. So our students go through safety. They wind up building a 1,500 square foot home in our school parking lot. And through that, we then take it and use the building concepts, the building language through the geometry lessons. So our students have the ability now to combine the 2 different facets, just like algebra and entrepreneurship, where they can really see and understand how the geometry comes to life. It's really an ideal way for students to practice the physical concept of making angles, making sure they have right triangles, along with order of operations and how things are done. But it gives them a different way of understanding and approaching the math from the building side.
Thanks, Matt. Dale, do you want to speak on about our iEdge classes?
Yes, I do. I just had to try to figure out how to unmute myself. So yeah, Intro to Engineering Design is a project lead the way class in the CT department. I like to think of myself as friends of the CT department. So I was wandering through Cindy Curtis's class one time and I was like, what are you doing? And she was doing some work on CAD. And she was just building out some designs in CAD, and I'm like, well, you're doing area and volume and similarity, and look at those parallel lines. I mean, every piece of the geometry course was there. She tried to say no, it wasn't, but then she justified in a pretty structured proof that it was. So IED was a great course. I was like, we should be doing this. Only so many kids can build a house. We can have about 100 kids build a house. What other opportunities are there? And so we looked at that as an opportunity. So Cindy's been partnering with a variety of different teachers. Justin Dunn, she'll be teaching it with this year. But basically, the Intro to Engineering Design, the Project Lead the Way course, pretty much runs the order of the geometry curriculum, and that has a lot of heavy geometry in it. And so they're just like when you're building a house, you can see the math in context. And so we've been doing that for a number of years, and it's another alternative way to kind of look at geometry in a real setting. I will say we have 13 other geometry teachers who are doing this in just a standard geometry classroom every day. They're not building a house, they're not in CAD or kind of building things or 3D printing something, but they are bringing these types of problems into their classroom. So you can see it kind of leak out into all of the classrooms around the school. So again, I think we're the only one that builds a house. Matt can correct me if I'm wrong, across the country. But I think what you can do in your classroom, even in a standard geometry class, you can bring these elements of it in. And so Intro to Engineering Design was a great way to partner on a large scale, but we could also see that happening on a smaller scale as well. STEAM Design Thinking was a senior year course. And by the way, all these courses, as long as we're halfway through here, I'll say most of the courses and the teachers describing on the team, I gave them a blank piece of paper and I said, go make the course. Jose, you might want to highlight that blank piece of paper as you talk about STEAM, right? So I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, I honestly feel blessed to be able to be one of the facilitators for STEAM Design Thinking. Once again, it's our senior capstone class, but it's a class that we truly walk through the design thinking process and really allowed the students to experience we actually, sometimes they don't feel like they are, but they are designers, and we actually open their eyes and let them see that we're all designers, and how do we use our design thinking innovation process to problem solve or just to imagine things differently. One of the things that I want to highlight truly about this class is that it's very hands-on. We do a lot of prototyping, whether it's physical prototyping, whether it's using Canva or CAT or whatever it is, or 3D printing. And one of the things that I really, really want to highlight is how invested we're in the community. We really take the learning outside for them to experience learning in the community. We spend the whole second semester looking for design opportunities within the community of Evanston. They're able to go outside and really look for design opportunities to just reimagine things. Sometimes it's not just solving a problem, but seeing things differently. They work with different businesses, sometimes with nonprofits, sometimes with just neighbors and stuff like that, just whenever they need different ways or they need things to be different, or sometimes it's a problem that they need to resolve. Design thinking, it's a really cool class to be part of. And if just to keep the idea of like, what can I take home from today from STEAM, I would say, how can we try to involve community a little bit more in what we're teaching, whether it's pre-calculus or geometry? How can we see what's happening in our community and bring it into the classroom as a part of our curriculum? I think that would be one thing from STEAM that I would love to highlight. The other thing is like, how can we get more into hands-on and sometimes just having fun? So we forget to have fun in the classroom, and that's something that we do a lot in STEAM.
Well, so for data science, Sarah and I got the blank piece of paper from Dale a couple years ago, and we kind of follow the U cubed that Joe Bowler from Stanford kind of has as the basis for it, but we also had to adapt it to fit our block schedule and to actually make it kind of work for our students. We made it a very project-based class, so students aren't taking quizzes or tests. That every unit we do follows a process that and what's great about data science is as they do this process, they're involving, they take data science kind of has three, if you think of a Venn diagram, 3 circles. You always have statistics going on. You have like computer science or coding maybe going on in the background as well. And then also like the area of specialties, like whatever would be needing to be looked at. And we try and use a social justice lens for a lot of our units. But the process the students go through then when they're doing these projects is they have to kind of like, based on the topic at hand, they brainstorm and they hypothesize what they think might be happening and why. And then they move into collecting data. And that happens a couple different ways. Like sometimes they actually have to collect the data through surveys or maybe like using internet sites, or sometimes they might already be given the data and then have to learn how to clean it. After collecting data, then they model the data, and that's where we get to kind of bring in a variety of things. We do unimodal and then also bimodal data, and then we also always disaggregate it. And so having students look at that, once they've created their models, the next step is then to analyze it. And this is where, you know, students really have to dig deep. This is what sometimes stretches them. And then the last part is then presenting. And so I know Sarah and I take pride in like what we kind of created for different things. Sometimes when they're presenting the data, they might be writing a letter to an editor. For one of the units, they had to like make a commercial. So we try and do it in a fun variety of ways. Sarah, if you want to like chime in on any of that as well, but that's kind of our data science.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the cooler things that we were able to see the last couple of years during some of these projects is, I mean, one unit in specific, when it was a unit about univariate data, as Neva had said, but we had it underneath this lens of like, how do kids want to enhance the ETHS community? Like, what is it something that they want improved in the school? And they went out and did all of the things that Neva was just describing, but then their deliverable, like how they communicated their work, was to actually talk to like our school administrators about what they had collected and what it meant. So for example, we saw groups actually, you know, talking about how, you know, different staff members that they were learning from, their races, and like they were talking about hiring more teachers of color to our director of HR. So it was like a really, really cool like experience to watch our kids not only be able to have their math being shared with people that need to hear it, but also like it helped us see how well they actually understood what they had been doing the last few weeks. And I think one other really cool thing about this class is that it's probably the one math class that I teach out of geometry and calculus where my kids are really learning those 21st century skills, and they learn how to work in groups so well. They learn how to incorporate build their literacy skills while they're learning math. And when kids come in with writing and reading skills that were like a little astonished, they walk out with, you know, having grown a lot in those areas and coupling that with math. So we don't really get a when are we going to need to know this type question during that class.
And the next thing we had on this list was culturally responsive curriculum. I think our teachers just highlighted that all of those specialized courses in all of our math classes are culturally responsive. But we additionally have some other math courses that emphasize examples that some individuals in the Black and Latinx community identify as shared experiences. So we have those additional courses as well. But like we mentioned and our teachers mentioned, all of our courses are culturally responsive. In fact, when I was an AP Stats teacher, we used data from the Evanston Police Department traffic stop data, and we analyzed that, looked for disparities, racial disparities in that data, and then reported back to the Evanston Police Department our findings. So students really enjoy that. They find it valuable when they're using data from the local community. Dale, I'm gonna turn over to you for the last 2 bullet points.
Yeah, I think you made national news on that one, right, Jake?
We did, yeah.
If I remember correctly. Computer science, we collaborate closely with the CT department. We've been working for a while to create like an IT, a computer science kind of pathway. What do students take from freshman year on? And you look at algebra and coding, and you know, sometimes around the school, it's hard for algebra students to learn an abstract concept like computer science. But you can see as in our algebra and coding class, like we were able to do that. So if they take that as an entry level, you know, they can top out at computer science principles or computer science A, and then often go to Northwestern if they've topped out on our computer science. But we're trying to infuse, you even heard it from some of the courses that we offer, we try to infuse it in a lot of our different courses. We still have the transitional math that many schools have, dual credit. That's really been blown up at the school. That's part of my new role, is to continue that across the school in the core subject areas. And we highlighted advanced placement earlier. So, I mean, that's a lot of stuff. Again, most of the things that we're talking about, whether it's detracking, you know, oftentimes my teachers would come to me and say like, hey, who can we go to see an example of success? And I would often say, well, you all are the example of success, right? And that was hard work along the way. And I appreciate the math team members that are here and the ones that are not here, but watching elsewhere or will watch the recording later. But I mean, that's a difficult task to be, you know, one of the first ones to do it. Everybody just said, like, leave math alone. You know, we were detracking across the school, but let's not touch math. Math is different. And there weren't really a lot of good examples of people that were detracking. That's hard to do. It's hard to create a course from a blank piece of paper on the backs of teachers that they still teach 5 classes and have a duty like everybody else, right? And a family's at home, right? So how do you create a course from nothing? So it's really a huge lift. And I think with a school that has 40 teachers and a lot of resources, right, we have the ability to do that. But a lot of little pieces, connecting with the community, broadening your definition of math, right? Like, we're problem solving in a lot of these classes. Does it look the same? Sometimes yes, sometimes no, right? And then one of the areas that we've really kind of been leaders in our area, but also across the nation, is in data science. We've been working closely, you know, with the Data Science Education K-12 Research to Practice Conference. Evanston is one of the board members that's creating a brand new conference for the first time ever in San Antonio. If you're interested in data science, there's a call proposal extension to August 8th. And so we're on the board. We're leading the way for data science across the nation. Data science is one area that we see as kind of a total disruption potentially of the pathway. And we have some barriers, and I could probably give a whole presentation just on that, but I won't, because I want to leave some time for Q&A. But when we look at data science, you know, if I just asked you today, how often did you use just kind of a standard, you know, algebra, a standard logarithm, a standard like mathematical concept? Who knows? But if I ask you how often you've looked at data multiple times throughout the day, social media, you know, paper, wherever you get it, I mean, you're constantly exposed to data, AI, you know, et cetera. So, you know, this is really an area that we see where mathematics is heading. But there's a lot of systems in place that kind of work against that. But we've been working at the state level. We had one of the college readiness benchmarks change to data science. We had the Illinois State Board of Education create a data science math code, calling it a math class. But a lot of schools, a lot of, you know, post-secondary institutions are still looking for the traditional Algebra 2 pre-calc and AB calc kind of pathway. They actually say data science, you need Algebra 2. You know, if it's going to be AP statistics, you need calculus. So there's a lot of barriers. My old university, University of Illinois Champaign-Urbana, the best school in the nation. If you're going to major in data science, last time I checked, they don't count data science as a math course to be a data science major. So there's some work to be done. And I think if you look at from our lens, we started with, you know, we're a very diverse high school, and we want to create opportunities for all students. There have been mathematical barriers historically. Algebra 2, pre-calc, AB calculus have been barriers for our students of color. We've worked to have students be successful in those courses, but also they continue to be barriers across the country for our students of color. So there's people in pockets that are working, you know, in the data science arena, but there's a lot of pushback against that, as you've probably seen, right? But what we're trying to do is, you know, create an opportunity for students that to expose them to mathematics that's going to be valuable, that's going to be part of their lives. We love math. All of us love, I mean, give me a hard logarithm problem, I'll knock it out. Give me a complex proof, we'll go ahead and do that. But also data science, artificial intelligence, other areas like that, computer science, we want to really look to those as potential features of mathematics. But we have to kind of push the system in terms of that. So I think we kind of talked about how we disrupted the normal pathway. And then we went into how we kind of have interesting classes within that pathway, these transdisciplinary courses. Data science has the opportunity to explode the pathway and create a totally different looking mathematics path for our students. And I think ultimately, if you go to the standards of mathematical practice or wherever you want to look to kind of see what math really is, get to its core, all of these courses that are transdisciplinary, data science, problem solving, critical thinking, creating a justification, all that can be done in a variety of different ways. And so I think the staff at Evanston Township High School that I've been fortunate enough to lead, and now Jake has the great opportunity to lead. I mean, they're really paving the way for what mathematics can be in the 21st century. And oftentimes they're the first ones to do it. And oftentimes we're kind of starting it in our area and spreading it across the nation. I know the Northwest Suburban math chairs are tired of hearing me talk about data science. And that's because, we're doing it, we're leading it, and we're here tonight even to share, to hope other people can kind of join on board and take little pieces from what we have. But we're working on the state and national level on many of these courses. I'm looking at the people on the call, and you guys have done hour-long, 2-hour-long presentations just on one of the little pieces we talked about. So that's hard work, and it's before the school year even started. So thank you for being here during the summer. Jake, I'll turn it back over to you, but to close us out, and then we can take some Q&A.
Yeah, thanks, Dale. Like I said, this has been decades long, over 100-year process at ETHS. We started doing this work in 1883, like Dale likes to say, and then we've made it more of a targeted focus since 2007. And like I also mentioned, this is not easy work, and our teachers are committed to this work. And I think that's the foundation of our success here at ETHS, is we have teachers that are willing to do hard work for our students. And they're doing this work as well after hours, before school even starts. So I want to thank them for their time as well. Questions? I know we already had one question in the chat, Dale.
Yeah, and Jake, we said 7:45. We'll start with questions. I mean, man, we're in good leadership now, Adam.
I'm punctual.
Spot on. That's incredible.
Adam, we'll let you drive.
Sure.
We'll let you drive the Q&A, but thank you all for being there. Jake, I'm really excited to see how you're going to lead this team. And again, for those of you who are able to present tonight, we appreciate it. We know how much you care about the work and you care about your students, trying to get ready for the school year. And those of you who are able to jump on the webinar tonight, we appreciate your time as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you, ETHS, for sharing. And there's so many questions I think we have here to jump in and dig deeper with this, which is wonderful. Just to start, I was wondering, Dale, if you could go back to the earlier slide that has the picture that Jake said was kind of that, this shows the pathway as a kind of in print right now. If you go to your website or something, that one, yeah, that one right there. Just to have that up so people can think about questions that align to seeing all the pieces, kind of put together in a graphical form, may be helpful to think about there. So as far as questions, we definitely have time for questions, and 2 ways to ask questions. One, feel free to put it in the chat, but also totally fine to ask verbally. Sometimes that's a little easier. If you want to raise your hand, I can call on you. I believe there's a hand raise button down there somewhere under the React maybe, or a
we're out of Zoom practice, I think, Adam. I can answer the ones in the chat.
On me,
I know they keep changing it. They've got a new updated version, so I can answer the 2 in the chat.
Sure.
Is STEAM design thinking innovation considered a math credit? Yes, we worked very hard to make that happen, right? So it was, the teachers had to put together the course, but also how could this possibly be a math credit? It's NCAA approved as a math course as well, which is also difficult to do, to get a course that's kind of way out there to be considered a math course. So it's an NCAA approved course, math course. It's considered a math course at the high school, and students will take that. Sometimes they'll take an additional class, but sometimes it's their standalone class. Stephanie asked, did you eliminate weighted grades for advanced or AP courses? Our college and career coordinator, Beth Airy, did a lot of research in the area with lots of colleges and universities with regard to weighted grades, titling courses, honors or not. We did not eliminate weighted grades for advanced or AP courses. Our research that Beth Airy did and her team showed us that would be a disadvantage to our students. So at this point, we've decided not to unweight them, because there was certain schools that our students go to that would be a disadvantage. So at this point right now, based on our research, that's where we stand on that. Are all of these courses NCAA approved? We've had difficulty getting some courses approved. I'm happy to share the language that we've used to get them approved. I think they're all approved. I don't think pre-algebra is approved for anyone. If you know how to get that approved, let me know. And one of our transitional math courses, elementary college algebra, that one is not NCAA approved. But as I look across the list, every other course that's listed is NCAA approved. And so if you need help with that language, let me know. And if you have a language to help us with elementary or pre-algebra, let us know, because we'd love to learn from you as well.
Data science team, I'll put you on the spot. There was one question in the chat. It says, are there any ways in which you are modifying data science courses to this year for the presidential election year? So I don't know if you have any ideas already. I know that when I was teaching AP Stats back in 2016 and in 2012, we modified, or 2020, 2016, we modified the curriculum to include polling data. We looked at sampling methods. I know that was a big thing that I talked about in my AP Stats class, but all of the data science teachers take it over as well.
So I think like with the AP Stats, we always look at like, is this a good model? What would make it a good model? Similar, we'll probably be doing that in data science. I don't think we've thought of like a specific unit to just focus in on it, but definitely at the end of the year, students could, like the last unit that they do, they get to kind of decide what they would want it to be about, so that they always can maybe have that. But I definitely think that we encourage the students to like be on the lookout for what they see in the media, what they hear, and then really to have like a skeptical lens about it. And we can always discuss those in class and everything. Sarah or Aaron, do you want to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that like we're fortunate where the three of us are able to meet like pretty regularly to help redesign each unit. And so we have a couple units right now that we are always looking to improve. And so I think making things relevant from year to year is something that is an ongoing goal for us.
An easy example that I always used in my AP Stats classes, when we saw a poll that was published, if you look in the fine print, it'll tell you what the polling methods were. And so I'd have my students read the polling methods, and then we'd talk about, is this a representative sample? Is there bias in this sample? And certain news organizations would use what we consider to be biased sampling methods. And so that's a great discussion point to have in your class as well. Go into the chat as well. For the data science team, any thoughts if R is accessible for high schoolers, if we should stick to Excel/Google Sheets?
So currently we expose our students to a lot of the different technology. We have not used R yet. It is on our radar. That when we did coding, we used EduBlocks, because like that way every student kind of had an entry level to it. Some of the students though, who were more advanced, they chose just to use Python. And didn't want to have to use the EduBlocks. And so I think we have not yet introduced R, but we do know it's out there. Oh man, I can't even think of what we use Google Sheets, but then with Google Sheets, is it CodeApp? Is that what we use? Pretty sure it's CodeApp or Collab. CodeApp.
I know CodeApp is one that we even use in AP Stats as well.
Yeah.
Before.
And so a lot of our modeling happens in CodeApp. There was another one we were trying to like think of using that I know businesses use a lot. Sarah or Aaron, do you remember what it was called?
We looked in a Tableau,
Yes.
but then we were told that if we were going to do that, that R would be better. So it's something that's on our radar to look into for the future.
I think the next question on here is what percentage of kids who take any type of 2 algebra and advanced 2 algebra honors versus 2 algebra pathway honors? I would say most of our students take algebra 2 pathway honors. We have students who've been accelerated in our feeder district for a while. Sometimes they'll take geometry, on the way in over the summer in some form. We have, I think, 6 maybe sections of advanced 2 algebra honors. The majority of those students are freshmen. And so they've already taken geometry before they come in. These are students, by the way, who take advanced algebra 2 honors as freshmen. They take AP pre-calculus. They cover all 4 units as sophomores. They're in BC calculus as juniors. And then they take multivariable calculus and linear algebra as seniors, sometimes concurrently with advanced topics in math, which are 2 other high-level mathematics classes that are taught with right now Richard Agan and one of our Northwestern professors who comes over and teaches it. So these are students who are already accelerated before they come in and end up taking, basically AP or college level classes, high level classes like multivariable calculus, linear algebra, and beyond, 2 different subjects beyond that, real analysis, whatever they might take beyond that senior year along with MB Calc. So we do have about 6 sections, I think, Jake, but primarily those are freshmen who are accelerated before they came in.
Yeah, I was just looking at the board actually. I'm in the math office. I think it's 6 or maybe 7 without doing some counting.
7 based on our change today.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
and students have the ability to do that. If students are interested in taking BC, anyone can be in the class that wants to. They want to That class has more content, faster pace, and that's really to prepare them for the 2 semesters of calculus and BC, the 2 courses of MB linear algebra, and the 2 courses of advanced topics, sometimes taking them all at the same time. So percentage-wise, I'd have to calculate that out, but hopefully that paints a good picture for you. And that's Mary, right? Hi, Mary. Sorry, I got lost in the chat. What do we have next, Jake?
Is AI and data analytics also incorporated into your data science class? Can students get credit in both math and computer science, such as American Studies with social studies and English? I know they incorporate some AI, if I'm correct,
Yeah.
into the data science class.
So like oftentimes at the start of the year, we do talk about AI data ethics and everything and how data is collected on students or just in people in general. And like, is it ethical? What goes behind that? We even have a full unit on machine learning, which kind of was scary to have to take on as a teacher who had never had any experience with that, but learning right next to the students. And so that was really fun. But what is also really cool is like constantly things about AI are coming out. And so anytime there's a news article, you know, like we do usually try and bring it up with the students will send us like emails or stuff that they're like, oh, I just saw this new thing on AI. And so it does come into our class discussions often. And then I know for the data science, you can get a math credit at our school for it. But then we'll let the department chairs take over for the last part.
The other piece of the question is students get credit in both math and computer science. American Studies is social studies and English. I'm guessing that's a double period class, but if not, maybe you can get credit for both. They would be standalone classes at Evanston, math and computer science. Computer science could be a CTE credit, a career and technical education credit, or a math credit, depending on what they need it for. Oftentimes students will take a math class and a computer science class. You could take computer science as a standalone, and that would count as your math credit. And so all the classes we're talking about are math courses at ETHS. And generally they would take a math and computer science. They would be 2 separate classes, and we'd go there. And looking at AI kind of beyond the math classroom, Oakton College has partnered with us for concurrent enrollment. We're the first school in the area to do a concurrent enrollment certification, AI certification program, a 4-course sequence that will be finishing up this year. And then the Glenbrooks are coming on board as well to join us in the concurrent enrollment class. So I think AI as a standalone is also something. Those aren't math credits, those are Oakton credits, but I think AI is there. AI is there in every classroom. If you're telling your students to put their cell phones away, AI is there in part of the math classroom. So we need to figure out ways to adjust. Craig had a question next, I think.
Yeah, I was going to mention that one a little bit. I think we've done a really good job with our geometry instruction courses with advertising them as this is a really cool opportunity. So it's a double block. So they're getting a block of construction and then a block of geometry. So we're not taking anything away from the geometry course. There's just as much time to cover everything that you would cover in a normal geometry class with this really cool added on part of the construction piece where they're building a house. And we're moving the house in a couple weeks to a local lot in Evanston. So I don't think we see any differences in the population or demographics of those classes versus our other geometry classes, because I think we do such a great job of advertising those courses to students as this is a really great opportunity, and you're still going to get that same experience of having a full geometry class.
Yeah, and Matt probably wants to jump in. I mean, he was the first one to detrack, if you will, and they were very careful early on to talk about that real geometry course. So Matt, I don't know if you're available to jump in on that, but.
Yeah, so one of the nice things about our program is that our students really are a cross section of the high school. So when you look at the statistics of how our school is broken down, that is real closely matched in the student population that's in our courses. And each year we really strive to really watch those numbers and see how all that lines up. And what we've also done is looked at how our students have compared to some of the other geometry classes, just to make sure that we're staying on track with those standards as well. It does provide a little bit of a difference where a lot of our students are self-selecting to be in our program. So it provides us with a little bit more buy-in and a little bit more attention. And it kind of cuts down with some of the other issues you might find in other classrooms throughout the building. But outside of that, we have the students that are high achieving, we have the students that sometimes struggle, and they find that middle ground in our program to be able to, understand the curriculum and find success in what they're doing.
Thanks, Matt. And the next question was from Adam, like for freshmen who, how is it decided which students go to the advanced 2 algebra honors versus the 2 algebra pathway honors? It's pretty complex. The short version is like the students can take any class that they want. Most of the students, when they come in geometry as freshmen, they're looking to get to AB Calc. If they're interested in taking BC Calc, that's when we want to move them to that advanced 2 algebra honors class, sophomore year. So, I mean, we have teacher recommendations. They have kind of the automatic placement based on standardized testing. There's student choice in there as well. Most of the students are looking to take, I think it's pretty much equal now in terms of AP Stats and AB Calc. I think we had a little pushback towards the traditional this year, but most of the students are looking to take AB or Stats. AP, that's the only stats course we offer, beyond data science, stats AP. So most students, it's geometry, earn honors credit, Algebra 2, earn honors credit, AP pre-calc for all, and then they're looking at AP Stats or AB Calc. But if students are interested in BC, we'll move them based on teacher recommendation or automatic placement or student choice to advance to algebra honors. But basically, they can take it if they want, and really it's what are you interested in, and if you're really interested in taking 2 semesters of calculus within a year in BC, then let's take the classes that are faster paced and cover more content to prepare you for that. I don't think like our Algebra 2 pathway to honors is harder or easier than Advanced 2H. Advanced 2H just covers more content, and they do it at a faster pace. But if you're in there on like a particular lesson, the lesson looks very similar from one to the other. Perhaps a little bit more scaffolding in one than the other, but I think it's more pacing and amount of content that we cover. So I don't know if that answers your question, Adam, but like complex kind of, but basically, where do you want to go and how can we help you get there? Right.
Yeah. No, that's great. I know it's 8 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and officially say thank you so much for all of the Evanston Township High School math department teachers for the work you're doing and for sharing your journey with us, and just really some incredible stuff that's going on at your school. So thank you for your hard work. Keep at it, and thank you for sharing with ICTM more broadly. And so for everyone else, if you did want, if you're an ICTM member and wanted to get the ILPD credit, there is a link in the chat. Make sure you signed in and signed out as you go through. And people are asking, will there be a replay of this event? Yes, we have recorded it, and so give us about a week at most, but we will be posting it on our ICTM webinar page. Thank you, ETHS, for allowing us to do that. So we'll be putting it there soon, and we'll try and let people know it's there as well. So let's give ETHS a thank you, whether it's chat, virtual, clap, whatever it is. Thank you all of you for your continued hard work and the important work of really trying to bring out the best of your students. So thank you all very much. And with that, we will close up this evening. So thank you, everyone. Have a great start to your school year. And all right, hopefully we'll see you all around the math teaching soon.
Thanks for having us, Adam.
You betcha. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it.
Thanks to all of our teachers.
Yeah, thanks, you guys.